Faculty AI is known for its work with vote leave during Brexit, which is now positioned as a key player in shaping AI government policy. Beyond education, the content store concept could expand to other government departments, potentially improving efficiencies in sectors like energy, environment, and public services. With AI increasingly embedded in policy decisions, Eric, what does this mean for the future of education and government efficiency?
That's interesting. It's kind of in some ways it's ironic because I know using AI in an academic setting is highly frowned upon if you're a student. But now the on the flip side, the teachers and administration are potentially using AI to help in their jobs. So I find that contrast. I understand the contrast, but I find that interesting. It reminds me of, just as a side note, I don't know if you saw or if you watch South Park, but when they had there's an episode they did about ChatGPT, where, and if you don't know South Park, especially if you're not in the U.S., South Park is a animated comedy. It's very politically incorrect. It's very funny, but they take on current pop culture, current event type stuff on the show and sort of poke fun at it. And in this episode, it was focused on ChatGPT, and in the show, the kids were all, these are kids that are like in second and third grade, I think, on the show, but they all figure out how to use AI to do their homework and to do a bunch of other stuff, and then the teachers find out. Teachers get mad at first, but then the teachers realize, oh wait, but I could use AI to grade the papers. And so they all start using AI just to grade the papers, and makes their jobs a lot easier. And they're not even like reading the assignments or looking at the homework. And then the principal wants to ban AI once he finds out all the kids are using AI. And then the teachers revolt and say, well, no, we don't want you to ban AI because, they're benefiting from it as well. So I couldn't help but think of that episode of South Park as it relates to that. But, I think realistically speaking, though, I understand why students you wouldn't want to have use it because you want them to learn to think for themselves, just like a lot of us when we were kids, we wondered, why did we have to learn how to do long division by hand when we could just use a calculator? It's the same kind of thing. You kind of have to understand the inner workings of things, even if you're not going to realistically do longhand division. I haven't done longhand division since, probably for 40 years or something. But anyway, there's a benefit in learning behind it, but I think it could only help make education better, because if you could consolidate all that knowledge and lessons from other schools and that sort of thing, I think AI can only provide a better educational experience, better curriculum. As you mentioned, there's a lot of benefit that AI could bring to make teachers even smarter than they already are.
Yeah, this kind of plays into what you just said, kind of plays into my next question of how do you see AI's role evolving in education over the next 5 to 10 years? And could tools like Faculty AI's content store be, a big game changer for teachers worldwide?
It could, yeah, I think it could, and it could also provide a little bit of equalization, between different, demographics of kids. If you're, if you're in a private school, super high end private school versus a public school with limited funding, AI suddenly becomes sort of an equalizer to where, there's not as much of an advantage to going to a big fancy private school versus, a school with lesser resources or whatever. I also think it could provide, more consistency in how kids are trained. You look in the United States, you've got 50 states that each has their own different education systems that do things a bit differently. So if you grow up in the US, at least, if you grow up in one city or state, you might have a totally different educational experience than someone who, is in a neighboring state. So it sort of sort of normalizes or makes it more of a level playing field. And certainly globally as well. I imagine it could. You think about developing countries where they don't invest heavily or they don't have the resources to invest heavily in education. With AI, maybe they do. Maybe some of these less developed countries can provide better education. So I think overall it just lifts the opportunities for a lot of people throughout the world.
Yeah, absolutely.